Good day, grade 5. Today, we will learn how to identify the height of a parallelogram, triangle, and trapezoid, even when these shapes are turned in different directions. By the end of our lesson, you'll be able to identify the correct height with confidence. After this lesson, you should be able to identify the base and height of a parallelogram, identify the height of a triangle, identify the height of a trapezoid. Recognize the height even if the figure is rotated. Remember, the height is not always standing straight up. It depends on the base you choose. Height, or altitude, is the perpendicular distance from the base to the opposite side or opposite vertex. Forms a 90-degree angle. The height is the shortest distance from the base. It always meets the base at a right angle. A height is drawn from one side perpendicular to the opposite side. Sometimes it is inside the figure. Notice that the slanted side is not the height. The parallelogram may be standing, leaning left, leaning right, upside down. The height always stays perpendicular to the chosen base. Even if the shape is turned, the height never changes its meaning. The height is drawn from a vertex straight to the opposite side, base. Forms a right angle. The height is not always one of the sides. Rotated triangles. Examples: pointing up, pointing down, sideways. The height is still the perpendicular line from the vertex to the base. Turning the triangle does not change where the height is. The height is the perpendicular distance between the two parallel sides. The height connects the two parallel sides. A trapezoid may be standing, tilted, sideways. The height is still the shortest perpendicular distance. The height is never the slanted side. A parallelogram has base equals 8 centimeters, slanted side equals 6 centimeters, vertical line equals 5 centimeters. Question: which is the height? Let's identify the height of the parallelogram. First, remember that the height is the perpendicular, vertical distance from the base to the opposite side. It must form a 90-degree right angle with the base. The 8 centimeters is the base, not the height. The 6 centimeters is the slanted side. Since it does not form a right angle with the base, it is not the height. The 5 centimeter vertical line goes straight from the base to the opposite side and forms a 90-degree angle. Therefore, the height is 5 centimeters. The correct answer is C, 5 centimeters. A triangle has base equals 10 centimeters, side equals 8 centimeters, perpendicular line equals 7 centimeters. Question: what is the height? Let's identify the height of the triangle. Remember that the height, or altitude, of a triangle is the perpendicular distance from a vertex to the opposite side, which is called the base. The height must always form a 90-degree right angle with the base. Let's examine each measurement. 10 centimeters is the base of the triangle, so it is not the height. 8 centimeters is one of the slanted sides. Since it does not form a right angle with the base, it is not the height. 7 centimeters is the perpendicular line drawn from the top vertex straight down to the base. It forms a 90-degree angle with the base, so this is the height. Therefore, the height of the triangle is 7 centimeters. The correct answer is B, 7 centimeters. A trapezoid has upper base equals 6 centimeters, lower base equals 10 centimeters, vertical distance equals 4 centimeters. Question: which measurement is the height? Let's identify the height of the trapezoid. Remember that the height of a trapezoid is the perpendicular vertical distance between its two parallel sides, called the bases. The height always forms a 90-degree right angle with both bases. Now, let's examine each measurement. 6 centimeters is the upper base, so it is not the height. 10 centimeters is the lower base, so it is not the height. 4 centimeters is the vertical distance between the upper and lower bases. It forms a 90-degree angle with both bases, so this is the height. 5 centimeters is not one of the given measurements for the height, so it is not the correct answer. Therefore, the height of the trapezoid is 4 centimeters. The correct answer is C, 4 centimeters. A parallelogram is rotated. Measurements: slanted side equals 9 centimeters, base equals 11 centimeters, perpendicular distance equals 7 centimeters. Question: identify the height. Let's identify the height of the rotated parallelogram. Remember that rotating a shape does not change the meaning of its height. The height is still the perpendicular, vertical, distance from the base to the opposite side. It must always form a 90-degree right angle with the base. Now, let's examine each measurement. 11 centimeters is the base of the parallelogram, so it is not the height. 9 centimeters is the slanted side. Since it does not form a 90-degree angle with the base, it is not the height. 7 centimeters is the perpendicular distance from the base to the opposite side. It forms a 90-degree angle with the base, so this is the height. Although the parallelogram is rotated, the height is still the perpendicular distance, so the height can be determined. Therefore, the height of the parallelogram is 7 centimeters. The correct answer is C, 7 centimeters. A triangle is turned sideways. Measurements: base equals 9 centimeters. Side equals 6 centimeters. Perpendicular line equals 5 centimeters. Question: what is the height? Let's identify the height of the triangle. Remember that the height, or altitude, of a triangle is the perpendicular distance from a vertex to the opposite side, called the base. The height must always form a 90-degree right angle with the base. Even if the triangle is turned sideways, the height does not change. We always look for the perpendicular line, not the longest side or the base. Now let's examine each measurement. 9 centimeters is the base, so it is not the height. 6 centimeters is one of the slanted sides. Since it does not form a 90-degree angle with the base, it is not the height. 5 centimeters is the perpendicular line drawn from the vertex to the base. It forms a 90-degree angle, so this is the height. 4 centimeters is not one of the given measurements, so it is not the correct answer. Therefore, the height of the triangle is 5 centimeters. The correct answer is B, 5 centimeters. Let's remember, height forms a 90-degree angle. Height is the shortest distance. Height is not always a side. Rotating a shape does not change its height. Always look for the line that makes a right angle with the base. Exit quiz. 1. Which line is the height? A. Slanted side. B. Perpendicular line. C. Longest side. D. Shortest side. Number 2. The height of a trapezoid is between the blank. A. Slanted sides. B. Equal sides. C. Parallel sides. D. Diagonals. Number 3. A triangle is turned upside down. Does the height change? A. Yes. B. No. C. Sometimes. D. Cannot tell. Excellent work, everyone. Today you learned that the height is always the perpendicular distance from the base to the opposite side or vertex. Even if a parallelogram, triangle, or trapezoid is rotated, the height remains the line that forms a 90-degree angle with the chosen base. Keep looking for that right angle, and you'll always find the correct height.